Starting as early as January 2020, we began to hear of a possible new disease that was impacting Wuhan, China. There was news of an increased number of pneumonia cases. Shortly afterward, we started to hear of a possibility of a new SARS-like virus. And before we knew it, we were all consumed with the topic of COVID-19. COVID-19 was a pandemic that shook the world in a matter of months. It shut down restaurants, schools, workplaces, and retail shops. Then, the state-mandated a stay-at-home policy was put into place all across America. The number of signs about washing your hands and social distancing increased in days. Who knew 2020 could get any worse? All of the coronaviruses, COVID-19 has been the most devastating to the entire world given its ability to spread throughout the world in a matter of months. Have we seen this before? Could it possibly be the new SARS or MERS? In today's documentary, we are here to compare the newly named coronavirus. SARS, or Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, was an epidemic that impacted a little over 8,000 people across 29 different countries. This epidemic lasted from 2002 from 2004. And according to the New England Journal of Medicine, quote, transmissions of SARS-CoV occurred mainly after days of illness and was associated with the modest viral loads in the respiratory tract early in the illness. By this point, sick people were seeking medical attention or at home sick, which contained the infection rate and community spread. Another possibility was MERS, the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, or camel flu, affecting around 2,500 people across the world, but mainly cases were found in the Middle Eastern. And according to the CDC, in January 2020, there has been a confirmed deaths of 866 people. As it turns out, COVID-19 is indeed a new coronavirus with its own unique qualities. It has many similarities to SARS and MERS, as well as other coronaviruses, and some key differences as well. But first, let's see what coronavirus is. Coronaviruses are named for its crown shapes that they resemble on the outside of the virus. The way they are listed is alpha, gamma, beta, and delta. Coronaviruses were discovered in the 1960s, and there are currently 7 known coronaviruses that could infect humans. Some of the more common coronaviruses that humans can get, as reported to the CDC, is 229E, NL63, OC43, HKU1. The other 3 are a lot deadlier, and those are MERS-CoV, the beta coronavirus that causes Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, SARS-CoV, the beta coronavirus that causes a severe acute respiratory syndrome, and SARS-CoV-2, or COVID-19. The deadlier coronaviruses are zoonotic, which means they were viruses in animals that were transmitted to humans, such as MERS, which was from a camel, SARS, which could possibly be from bats or civet cats, and COVID-19, which come from bats. At the start of this outbreak, the words epidemic and pandemic were tossed around, but later in the weeks, the COVID-19 outbreak was officially confirmed as a pandemic. The official definition of a pandemic, stated by the Webster Dictionary, is, quote, a disease occurring over a wide geographic area and affecting an exponentially high proportion of the population. While at the state of the earth is right now, of course this is predominantly a pandemic, but the human race thought it was an epidemic, which is defined by the Webster Dictionary as a, quote, disease affecting many persons at the same time and spreading from person to person. But COVID-19 is a pandemic that is affecting everyone around the world heavily. COVID-19 was officially announced as a global pandemic by the World Health Organization on March 11th, 2020. The number of confirmed cases in the United States as of May 14th was 1.4 million causes. 253,000 have recorded with 86,000 deaths. In my state of California alone, there have been 71,000 confirmed cases with no reviews reported, and 22,000 people have died. Coronavirus, as stated by the Harvard Health, is a, quote, extremely common cause of colds and upper respiratory infections. But what we are facing in today's day and age is COVID-19 is a new coronavirus. COVID-19 is a disease that can spread from person to person. The way you can get it from another human is from either talking, sneezing, or touching someone or something in public. That's why the CDC has said to wash your hands as much as possible and try to stop the number of times you touch your face and to social distance and stay 6 feet apart from someone at all costs. SARS was a type of coronavirus that was an epidemic in 2002 through 2004. The relation between COVID-19 and SARS is pretty identical. Besides being the deadly coronaviruses categories, SARS usually begins with flu-like signs and symptoms like fever, chills, muscle aches, headaches, and the occasional case of the diarrhea. After about a week, signs and symptoms includes fever of 1.5, dry cough, and shortness of breath. The amount of people that got SARS was a little over 8,000 across the world, but the death count was 774 from the CDC. Even though 8,000 people were affected, it was all contained, and the majority of the cases were in China, making it an epidemic, not a pandemic like COVID-19 is. As for transmissions of the disease, SARS can be contracted person to person. However, the infection period is after the person is already feeling sick, which makes it less likely for a person to go out and infect others. The mortality rate, according to the CDC for SARS, has been 9.6, much higher than anticipated for COVID-19, much lower for MERS, though. MERS was the next crazed coronavirus outbreak that happened. Health officials first reported the disease in Saudi Arabia in September of 2012. Through retrospective investigations, they later identified that the first known case of MERS occurred in Jordan in April 2012. So far, all cases of MERS have been linked through travel to or residence in countries in the near of the Arabian Peninsula. The largest known outbreak of MERS outside of the Arabian Peninsula occurred in the Republic of Korea in 2015. The outbreak was associated with a traveler returning from the Arabian Peninsula. Although MERS was affecting over 2,000 people, it still wasn't considered a pandemic due to its containment in the Middle East regions. The mortality rate for MERS is extremely high at a 34.3%. And according to the CDC, quote, MERS-CoV virus can be detected with higher viral load on longer duration in the lower respiratory tract compared to the upper respiratory tract. In other words, you get sick faster, making you stay home immediately, or in the most extreme cases, you seek medical help at a hospital which contains the spread. So why has COVID-19 caused so much damage throughout the world? Two of the key aspects we discussed were ability to spread, contagiousness, and mortality. It seems that the key to COVID-19's devastation is its balance between the ability to spread and the mortality and the mortality rate. And to show this, here's a recreation of a graph taken from the Netflix documentary, quote, Coronavirus Explained.